Hey guys, welcome back. Looks like we are finally on chapter 3 of Live Big, Love Bigger. We are covering hashtag freakout. So today we are going to be talking all about, social media, the impact of our families and the digital age. How do we continue to keep our family in check, not only ourselves, but our children? And how do we combat kind of this whole new era, this digital revolution that we are in the midst of? So diving right in, Kathryn talks about drawing those comparisons about when she was in high school, going through yearbook, and really the manual process of everything. And I remember even when I graduated, cell phones were still such a brand new, it was just starting to become common that you would get one. And so I remember my first phone, like you could play Pong on it and dial out, and that was about it. There was no texting, there was no internet surfing. It basically was, Pong, and you could make a phone call, and that was it. It still had the cool little antenna. So I really think that this is such an important topic, and honestly, I feel like we could do an entire series on this, because I think all of us in this book club, we're all at different stages of our lives with our kids, and it pertains to every single stage. There's a whole new beast to tackle with the digital age, with social media. And I think the biggest thing that we all have to remember at the end of the day, life is not what it seems on social media. There is this curtain, this facade that we are able to make everything glamorous and seem like our houses are perfect, our lives are perfect. We have all of these things, all of these filters, everything appears like we're keeping up with the Joneses. We've got it all. And again, the reality of that is it's all a sham. And I'm not saying that people don't have great lives. They absolutely do. I'm just saying what you see isn't necessarily what you get. You're not seeing what happens behind closed doors. And not that everybody needs to air their dirty laundry. But I think to the video that kind of went viral this week, if you guys saw it, was a mom who, I don't know if it was on TikTok or what, but she posted her house as is, the mess, all of it. And she got all kinds of praise, and like, this is what normal looks like. And we've all been there. We know what dirty floors look like. We know what spilled milk looks like. We know what yelling at your kids, probably to the point your neighbors can hear you, sorry everybody, what that looks like and what that feels like. And that's what's normal. And when we go through all of this, it's trying to find that balance. What is a healthy amount of social media time? What is healthy social media? I look at what we're doing right here, right now. We're able to have this virtual book club, and thankfully we have things like Facebook, Zoom, YouTube, where we can all still come together in a community of faith and talk about the real stuff, talk about the hard stuff, talk about what's going right, and we can all glorify God while we're doing it. And so how do we look for those communities within our social media? How do we look for the bright lights in everything and kind of ignore all that trash, if you will, or just the facade that gets put on things? I really feel like the past 2 years, and not to go political on anybody, but there was so much fake news. How much was circulating with COVID and all of these things going on, and it was hard to digest and weed through it all. What was truth? What was, fiction? It's hard. And then your kids, I feel like at a younger and younger age, are getting exposed to that. My oldest is about to turn 7 here at the end of the month, and she's already begging for a cell phone, which I've put a kibosh on that. Like, that's not happening. I doubt that we're going to be able to hold strong until she's 16, but 7 is way too young. She doesn't need to be exposed to all of this, all of the body image issues and these things. And thankfully there are those restrictions on there. So if you're in that middle of the road, you've got a 12-year-old that's got a cell phone, and I've got to learn all of this still, but thankfully there are parental controls. And I know that anything can be worked around, but hopefully those are some settings, those are some things that can really help with making sure that our kids are protected in some of those things. The monitoring, the amount of time that they're allowed on their phones or their tablets or their computers, and making sure that we're still utilizing the fellowship piece of things. We're still having that quality family time, that face-to-face interaction, whether that's just within our own household, with other households, with friends, that there's a healthy balance. And I think that's something we're all trying to navigate. We're all trying to learn, because you want to let them have some screen time. You want to let them have the video games. You want to let them do these things. But again, how are we, I hate to say controlling, but how are we monitoring those things and making sure that the value and the content is still there? So with all of that, I just have to say, when Kathryn goes into talking about the NICU community that she ends up finding on Facebook, she starts writing this blog. Again, I think that there are so many great avenues that are untapped out there. I have been so fortunate in the past 6 to 8 months, this Catholic community that has come out in social media, through Instagram, through Facebook, these amazing women and moms that I have gotten to know since starting Joyful Mysteries, and really this book club. And not only through that, but even through our own community. There were so many women that I knew, a lot of you, but I didn't know you. And so getting this opportunity has strengthened all of that. And it has given us the opportunity to, like this month, when we are all so busy and so many irons in the fire, we are still able to have this community. We are still able to put on a book club and meet and dialogue and have a place, a safe space to go to, because we're all going through this together. So I love that. I love that they're available, and I would highly encourage you, because there is a Catholic moms group out on Facebook, and it's the Catholic moms. There's the Catholic wife group. There's, if you're a business owner, there's Catholic women in business. There is Blessed is She, and there's even a Midwest region group for that, which I just stumbled across a few weeks ago, which has been phenomenal. So there's all these different avenues of utilizing social media to our benefit. And so I think that in something so maybe simple, where we are constantly scrolling, we're seeing what our friends and relatives are doing, which again, there's nothing wrong with that. Sometimes we get attached because maybe it's somebody from high school, what have you. Instead of always focusing maybe on some of those things, there are so many other ways that we can pull God into it. And I think that our mission should be to use these platforms that are available for us. And I know they're giants, but how do we get the word out? So, the Value Them Both movement that's happening here in Kansas right now, there's social media for that. I've tried to share their avenues where we can get that information right at our fingertips, but sometimes we forget in the most simplest places to look. So just shining the light on those things. One thing I want to touch on, again, this isn't something I thankfully have had to deal with yet. I hope I never do. But she starts to talk about the fact that she stumbled across a web browser of pornography with her son. And I mean, that's huge. I mean, how instant, how accessible these things are for our kids nowadays. And one of the biggest things I think that we should be doing as parents is keeping an open communication, an open dialogue with our children. And not just how was your day at school, but really making sure that we're listening to our kids. We may not always like what they have to say. Ugh, at 6 years old, 7 years old, mine can get pretty sassy sometimes, but she's awesome. And so making sure that they have this comfortable space, they have this place that they can go to and know that they're not going to be judged. And really making sure that we are bringing home